back to another episode of Togl. Well, as I said at the end of last week's episode, we need to get the mower fixed, or finished fixing. So this is the bracket that I showed you I was working on last time. It's all been cleaned up and painted, and it's now ready to go on the front of the ride-on mower. I've pulled the front off, so let's get this bolted on and let's start getting it put back together so I can get it up on the block, start using it again. Okay, so that will sit on there like that, and then I'll drop these 3 bolts through. I didn't literally mean drop. That's in the way. There we go, that's that on now. I've got to get the front on. Now, I need to undo these 2 bolts because this plastic actually slides under those washers, even though these 2 bolts are actually for holding this whole front bar in. Now with the bottom half screwed on, I can get these bars fixed back on as well. They stabilise the top and they screw in just up here. Well, there we go. She's not as pretty as she was. A little bit of a lean to the right, but it's functional and it works. So that's the main thing. I noticed that this crossbar down here, it's twisted a little bit. I've tried to straighten it out. It doesn't affect the steering. She still steers fine, and you know, I can get the hood open, get the fuel into it, check the engine. So that's pretty much all it needs to do. All I need it for is cutting grass. So that's that job sorted. Thankfully, we still have a mower. Anyway, I'm going to head up to the block tomorrow, so I will see you guys up there then. Well, it's a beautiful morning this morning. A little bit fresh, but I reckon that isn't going to last long at all because it looks like it's going to be a gorgeous day today. So I should be able to get plenty done. First thing I'm going to do when I finish my cuppa is I'm going to head up and grab one of the really big logs that I milled over a year, not milled, that I chopped down over a year ago. It's one of the big logs that came out of when the road was being cleared, and I want to start milling that up. So this morning's going to be spent doing some milling, getting some more timber done. My timber stock's running a little low, so I'll get that done. And then we'll see what I decide to do this afternoon. Well, another very big log. And that was a very slow and tedious trip back because the ground only had to vary by a couple of degrees, and it wanted to, the weight of that on the front of the bucket wanted to tip the tractor. So, and that's why you may have noticed I had the back excavator bucket hanging right out to the side. I used that as a counterweight, as I said before, kind of like a monkey's tail. So if the ground is sloping this way a little bit and it wants to tip, I'll bring that bucket around out this way just to try and counterbalance it a bit. Anyway, slow trip down, but we've got the log there, which is great. I'm going to need to trim a little bit off of the ends. It is a bit too wide for the tracks again, but we'll get that trimmed off and then we'll start doing some milling and see what sort of slabs we get out of this. Now, this tree has been down for, as I said, well over a year now. It was brought down when the road was put through. So, and that's why these ends are green, because I painted them. By painting them, it helps stop them split, apparently. Stops the water getting out as the log dries. It dries out slower, so it doesn't crack as much. So there's a few fine hair cracks in the end. It'll be interesting to see whether there's any major cracks through the middle. Hopefully, there's not. Well, she's looking really nice after the first cut, so but it's a little bit wobbly, so what I'm going to do is flip it over 180 degrees, get this nice flat piece sitting on the bottom, and then I'll slice through. It'll be a lot more stable. Okay, one of the jobs that I had started the other week was getting these blades fixed. This is the slasher off of the tractor, and the same day that I rolled the mower, I also damaged the blades on the slasher. So this is the unit, and these blades were pretty much straight out. One of them was actually pointed up because I'd hit some rocks. So took them up to friends of ours, Danny and Kathy, and Danny helped me straighten this out. He's got a big 40-ton press that we were able to straighten this out with, and then I've ground the edges, put a nice edge back onto it again, and I'm going to get up and do some slashing up at the paddock. But the first thing is I've got to get this on. By the way, I don't know if you can see the bees up the back here. They're going absolutely nuts around that hive at the moment. That hive's probably been active for 3 or 4 weeks. The swarm moved themselves in there. Later on tonight, after it's dark, I'm going to be taking that down, moving it down somewhere where I can actually get at it and check it regularly. It was just there as like a swarm trap, a swarm catching hive. So I want to get that into a better hive. But anyway, let's get this on. I've got some slashing to go and do. So I just realised that I've got these blades on upside down. So I need to flip them over. They're not supposed to be that way. Okay, that's better. Now let's get these on. One thing, just before I put this on, I'll show you. There's 4 bolts right here, 2 here and 2 here. Now, some time ago, earlier this year actually, one of these bolts had fallen out. And I thought, well, I lost the bolt. I thought, well, why lose the bolt? If I put the bolt in from the top down, if the nut falls off, the bolt's still there. I've only got to replace the nut. I thought that was a pretty smart idea. A good friend of mine, Steve, said no, bad idea. And the reason is, when you've got the nuts on this side, you can't see underneath this. So all 3 of the 4 nuts could fall off and you would see the bolt heads and still think everything's okay. And if that 4th nut falls off, then the whole tray, the whole thing drops off. Bad. So yeah, it actually makes sense that you have the bolts underneath. So if a nut does work its way off and the bolt drops out, you'll see that straight away. Should be checking that they're tight regularly, but just in case you don't, yeah, that's what you need to do. So yeah, so I've turned this back around now and the bolts are underneath. Okay, so that goes on, and then we put the lock nut on. Right, only needs to be finger tight really, because then a split pin goes through. Okay, so she's all fixed on now, so I just need to get this flipped back over. I'll use the tractor for that, use the bucket because that's really heavy, and then we can get up and do some slashing. well. I've got a bit more of those paddocks slashed, which is nice. Tried to stick to the paddocks where I knew there weren't rocks. I then moved on to the paddock where I was reasonably confident I knew where the rocks were, and hit another rock and bent the blade again. So I'll have to give that a bit of a hit. It's only bent it slightly, but it's just enough to clip the inside edge. So yeah, it's just, I had the bucket right on the ground when I was driving forward so that I would hopefully hear the bucket scrape on any rocks, thinking that would give me an indication, but alas it didn't. So that was the end of that. I jumped on the ride-on mower and did a little bit more mowing around this area. Kay did most of it the other day, by the way. Kay and I were up here doing a bit of gardening and mowing and just general tidying up. So as you can probably tell, I'm staying up here the night tonight as well. No alcohol tonight. I'm on the coffee. I'm going to go out and do a little bit of hunting. It's time to go and get some more wallabies. And I've noticed the rabbit population starting to increase as well, so I need to try and knock a few of those on the head as well. I also needed to be up here as close to dark or after dark as possible to move that beehive I was telling you about earlier. I thought while I was sitting here though, I'm having a little chat with you, I'd answer a couple of questions that some of the viewers have had. One in particular, a fella called Pete, one of our subscribers. He was saying that he was pretty sure I must have been ex-services, but wasn't 100% sure, and thought that would be interesting and that some of the other viewers might find my past interesting as well, which, yeah, maybe they will. So yeah, great idea, Pete. I thought I'd have a quick chat about that. So basically, I wasn't born and bred in Tassie or anything like that. From about age 7, I grew up in one of the northern Brisbane suburbs, outer North Brisbane suburbs, and at age 17 left home and joined the Navy. Off to go and see the world, which I did. I went up to the Middle East in 91 and Cambodia in 93. Got to see a few other places as well. So all in all, it was a 10-year full-time career, and then I got out and basically started working in IT, contracting to government mainly. A lot of work for defence as an IT contractor, Department of Foreign Affairs and a few other government agencies as well, wrapping up with 7 years with Telstra, working on defence projects again, so defence being my background, and still am a reservist and do quite a few days a year of reserve work as well. And that just helps to keep things funded up here, and it's a really nice work-life balance. Just work from home mainly, so it's really good. Gives me time on the weekends to pop up here, or during summertime it's fantastic. I can pop up here and get several hours in the afternoon. It's Tuesday, so midweek pop up. It's lovely. So yeah, big defence background, as is a lot of my family, and yeah, thoroughly enjoy that. That's pretty much me. 2 years ago we left Canberra, moved down here to Tassie with a big adventure. And yeah, it's been 2 years, we're still not living on the block yet. Who would have thought? I was so naive coming into it. I didn't realise how much political red tape and BS there would be. So we're getting close. We're getting close to having that final sign off and being able to start building up here. Just got to get a couple of other things sorted out, and maybe in a few months' time we might be able to get started on that. We'll see. But I've learned not to stress about it. I was push, really stressing out every day that things weren't happening fast enough, and realised, well, no point, that's just wasted energy. So just mosey along and take it as it comes, and when we get our approval we'll start. And until then, we've still got somewhere to live, we've still got this beautiful block to enjoy. There's no point stressing out over it. Just relax and enjoy the time up here, which is what I'm doing. Anyway, I'm going to have some dinner shortly, and when it gets a bit darker I'll bring you out on the hunt. And like I said, we're going to be targeting wallabies and rabbits, so we'll see if we get any. I've got the night vision camera hooked up onto the rifle, so you'll be able to come along and see the action as well. safe. That's another one down. Yep, he's down. Not quick enough. That one's over on the neighbour's paddock, so I don't want to jump the electric fence to get him. Missed him. Damn it. I'm no good at shooting off the shoulder. I really need to be able to brace on something, and that's why I missed that one. You could tell by how wobbly I was. Okay, well, that's 4 that I've got tonight, just walking around the property for about an hour. If you're wondering why I was wobbly when I was trying to shoot off the shoulder, it's because I've got a lot of weight on this rifle. That's all the scope and a torch. The big night vision scope, there's a fair amount of weight on that rifle, so it's hard to hold that for any length of time, even just a few seconds, up off the shoulder. So that's why I've got the bipod. I like to get down into the prone position. Anyway, I'm getting lazy. I've hung them up on fences. I'll drive around now and pick them up, and hopefully I might see a couple more that I'll get to take a shot at as well. But even just with the 4, it takes a fair bit to clean them. I do need to clean them and get them on ice tonight. So, and it's already 11 o'clock. So, which for a hunt is probably early, but for me, I'd rather be in bed. So, we'll go and pick them up. Might get 1 or 2 more, and we'll see what we see along the way. Yep, got him. There he is. That's 5. the 6. That was pretty good, and a couple of good sized ones in there as well. Had a good night's sleep, a nice sleep in because it was so late. It was after 1 by the time I got to bed. So I'm just going to have a quick bit of breakfast, finish my coffee, and then I need to get on with the day's work. So I do need to get onto some milling. I started that milling earlier on in this video, but the blade got blunt, so I started to cut crooked. I've since sharpened that blade, so I'll get a bit more milling done, but I might do that this afternoon. I think this morning, whilst it's a little bit cooler, it's slightly overcast, supposed to clear up during the day. So what I might do is get onto some more thistle control. There's still some areas where the thistles are quite thick that I need to get on top of before they go to seed, and they're all forming heads now, so I've got to really quickly get onto that. Anyway, once I've had something to eat, I'll see you up in the paddock and we'll get started on that thistle control, and I'll show you the tools that I'm using to control them now. It's a little different from the last time I was cutting them. Okay, so these are the tools of choice that I'm using now. What I found was, by cutting them off with the big brush cutter underground level, it still didn't stop all of them. Some completely died, but some did start to sprout back. I guess it just depended on how big the plant was and how strong the root structure was. It's crazy, isn't it? You know, a plant that you want, you could accidentally chop it off a foot above the ground and that thing's going to die. These, chop them off below the ground thinking you've cut them all out, they just grow back. They're crazy. Anyway, so for the larger ones that I can't pull out with the weed puller that I'll show you in a second, it'll be back to the machete, and I'm just going to lop them off close enough to ground level. It'll get rid of the heads, and it's the heads that I want to get rid of. I do not want those heads going to seed, because every one of them is another 1.5 to 5,000 seeds per flower, so I've got to get those flowers off before they develop. But for the smaller ones, there's a lot of them, we've got this weed puller that was shown to us by a friend of ours, and these are actually really cool. So basically all you need to do is you stab the weed into the center of those spikes there. I'll come in a bit closer. So you stab onto the weed, and when you pull backwards, levering against the ground, what happens is this closes up on that weed, and then you lever it and it pulls the weed out of the ground, roots and all. So you literally just push it down like that, lever back, and out comes that weed with the taproot as well. Fantastic. So that will get rid of them, and honestly that it's just as quick as using the brush cutter and cutting them down, and it's easier and it's quieter. You just got to make sure that you actually get over the top of it, which sometimes can be a challenge. There we go. And if it's stuck in the spikes, you literally just push that down, it knocks the weed off the end. So you can just go around and pull all these weeds out now, and that's what I'm going to be doing. It's a big job this time, but the more I keep onto it, the less weeds there will be. And the other thing with these little spiky bastards is you don't want to be touching them, because even with gloves on, they hurt. It's all good until you hit a rock. And there's a rock there, so I'll cut that one out with the machete. Anyway, I got a fair bit to do, so best I get on with it. Okay, this is the tree where I took that hive box off of yesterday. Now they say that you should take your beehive more than 300 meters away if you're going to move it. Now I've moved it close to 1 kilometer away. I was not expecting this many bees to be back. And the worst thing is, it looks like they're all trying to go into the hole of where that branch is. I do not want them setting up a nest in there. So I've just got another swarm trap box. I'm going to stick it up there. I don't know what's going to happen. The queen's up in the other box, so they shouldn't all be coming back. And I've never had this happen. I don't know. I'll get this other box up there and we'll see what happens. Well, straight away they're onto that box. As you can see, there's a lot on this side. Now, the other box I had up there had the holes on this side. This one's got the holes on the other side. So I've got a feeling these are obviously the bees from the other hive. Whether they didn't do their orientation flight this morning when they went out and they've naturally come back to here, or whether there was actually a lot that stayed out overnight, dirty stop outs, and came back today, I really don't know. But there are already some making their way into the hole on the other side, and these ones on this side will eventually work it out. I hope that the hole's on the other side and move in. But as I said, I've moved the majority of the colony about 1 kilometer up that way with the queen. If these are just stragglers, they don't have a queen, they're not going to be able to make a hive, they're not going to be able to do anything. I don't believe that these are a swarm, they're just leftovers. So I don't know whether maybe in a day or two, if there's a cluster of them in there, do I sweep them out up at the other hive and hope they go back into there and then reorientate themselves? I might have to call up some of my beekeeping mentors, ask them what they think about it. Anyway, I'm going to get on with some milling, and we'll leave these guys to do their thing. Alright, she's all set up. Let's get this mill cranking. The first thing I'm going to do is just take off a very thin slice because it was a little bit uneven. So with the new blade, I should be able to take that thin slice off, get a nice edge, then I'll lower it down. I'm going to take a 1.5 inch slab this time. Mate of mine, Neil, needs it for his van that he's doing up. So we're going to get a slab cut out of it for him. how thin that slice is. Like a sheet of cardboard. Amazing. Much better cut now. Beautiful cut, and that wood looks just amazing. I think you'll be really happy with that slab. The next couple of cuts I'm going to cut up are going to be to, actually I was going to say make some joists, but I'm really not sure what else I want to cut out of this yet. I might just slab it and keep the slabs for some other use. I do need to start working on cutting beams and stuff for the roof of the shed that I want to make the modifications to. But this is only just under 2.5 meters long, so it's a little short. The beams I'm going to need over there are going to need to be at least probably 3.5. So I might just slab this and yeah, see how we go. But it looks beautiful. Let me show you. Well, that's it for another episode. Just got to get some water and up done, and then I'll be heading home myself. Just want to take the opportunity to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, all that. Although there will be another episode before New Year's Eve, but Christmas is only 48 hours away, so yeah. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks very much for watching it. You stay safe. Have a great Christmas with your family, holiday time. Stay safe. I'll catch up with you next week, just before New Year's Eve. Cheers.